the Committee of a Whole for Monday, February 11th. Are we ready with City TV? Getting closer? Okay, we're good. The committee's been called to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Wood,
Here.
Councilmember Washington, Councilmember Spitzley, Councilmember Spatafor, Councilmember Jackson, Councilmember Garza, Councilmember Dunbar, Councilmember Hussein.
We have a quorum. Councilmember Washington and Councilmember Spatafor both have excused absences. We're expecting Councilmember Dunbar. With that, we have minutes from the February 4th meeting. Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that we approve the minutes from February 4th, 2019.
We have a motion on the minutes. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. This is an opportunity for public comment. If you would like to make comment, this is your opportunity to come to the podium, make your statement, and if you give us your name for the record. Thank you.
Kathy Miles. I just had an opportunity to speak with Betty Trice, and I support her appointment to the Medical Marijuana Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment at this time? With that, what we're going to do, I think since we have two people from the public, we're going to ask that we move those resolutions first. And so what I'd like to do is have Betty Trice, if you would come down and you could sit next to Samantha at the desk here, and what we will do is go through those appointments, and then if you need to leave, you can leave, and you can either, if this is approved, come back and be sworn in, or stay around, or get sworn in on Tuesday. So, oh, she's not on, that's right, she's on the next time. So, Betty, we have an appointment that's been moved forward to us for the Medical Marijuana Commission. And what we'd like you to do is to explain a little bit about yourself and why you want to sit on this board, and then make sure that the green light is on the mic. And then if any council members have questions, we'll ask those questions at that time. So Betty, thank you for being here.
Good evening. My name is Betty Trice. I've been a resident of the city of Lansing for about 35 years. I've just retired a couple years ago from the Michigan Legislature, Michigan State Senate, 43 years as an employee on the Office of the Secretary of the Senate. I have extensive research and legislative experience and parliamentary procedure and rules and regulations and that kind of thing.
I'm going to have you move that mic just a little bit closer to you. Okay. That's good.
Okay, so I've worked in the legislature for those many
Thank
years, and I've worked and interacted with the general public concerning legislation, research, committee meetings, and so forth. Since retirement, I've wanted to do something to give back to the community, and I've been pondering that for a while. And I was made aware that there may be an opening on the Lansing Medical Marijuana Commission, and or other commissions as well. This commission, I think, intrigues me because I think it has such an impact on the community, depending on your point of view, of course. And I think it's important to give back to the community. And I know that the committee process and boards and commissions are very important to the process at any level of government. I'm very familiar with the advice and consent process in the state legislature, worked very closely with that. So I just have an interest in this brand new industry that's coming up on, and I'd like to have some positive impact for the community.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Betty from council members? Any questions? I don't see any questions. This is a fourth ward. You are in the fourth ward. This is not a fourth ward appointment. They're not set up that way, but you do live in the fourth ward, I
Yes.
see, yes. Councilmember Spitzley.
Thank you, Madam President. Since no one's asking questions, were you involved, did you have any involvement in review or drafting of the state legislation for medical marijuana?
No.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I don't see any questions, so we would entertain a motion. Councilmember Spitzley.
Unless Councilmember Jackson would like to?
I suppose since she's a fourth ward resident, even though I have no voice today, but I'd move the appointment of Betty Trice to the Medical Marijuana Commission at a term to expire November 27th, 2020.
We have a motion. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Betty, this will be on the 25th of February. You can be down here if you'd like to be sworn in at the council meeting, or you can come the very next day after that on the 26th to the clerk's office, and at any time they can swear you in.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much for being
you.
here. The next appointment is Enrique, and this is for the Board of Review. Could you take the same place next to Samantha?
Thank you, Madam President.
And if you tell us, not that we don't all know, but for the public's sake, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to serve on this board.
My name's Enrique Jose Mendoza. I've been a resident of the city of Lansing for over 45 years. Just a few stints where I was in the military out in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, so I was gone for a couple years. I have an interest in this particular board because I currently work part-time for the city of Lansing, and I've been attempting to get into the premise officer or core compliance officer position, and I believe this would award me some experience and some of the code compliance and things of that nature, because I'm also going to be attending some courses at OCC for the building and trades. So I feel that this would be a great opportunity to gain some experience while I attend the LCC.
We're just doing some checking. I want to
Okay.
make sure that as an employee, you are still able
Okay.
to serve in that position.
Okay.
So the city attorney is looking at that. Do we have any questions?
Well, I
Councilmember
think the
Spitzley.
question I have is not as much for you, but for, does it depend on what position? So what do you do for the city of Lansing?
Parking services.
Oh, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I
I don't know if that matters, I was just asking.
Yeah. I just want to double check on that because I think there had been a provision about that, so I just want to make sure that we're correct on that. Councilmember Hussein, did you have a question? No. Councilmember Garza?
Thank you, Madam President. It wasn't, not a question, just more of a, I just want to appreciate, I appreciate you wanting to do this. I mean, Lord knows, Scott, we need premise inspectors. And it's a baseline position, right? I mean, it's not, you don't need that much experience to do that. Am I correct, Scott?
Well, there is a background required in housing as far as construction and that type of things. We do require that our premise inspectors, within 2 years, be ICC certified in housing and zoning. And so there is a little bit of a background that we look for, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, good luck, Enrique.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney.
He is eligible. The ineligibility is to a person holding a city office, and officer is defined as elected officials, members of boards and commissions, and their executive staffs and heads of departments.
Okay, good. With that, if there are no other questions, then do we have a motion on this? Councilmember Hussein.
Yeah, I'm going to move the appointment, but before I do that, I just want to say thank you too. I know that you're a Citizens Academy graduate. We appreciate you moving forward with that. I've seen you testify in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Very impressive in terms of your general advocacy for our community, our neighborhoods, and things of that nature. So very ecstatic about this appointment and thrilled that you are in fact eligible. So with that being said, I would move the appointment.
All right, we have a motion, and again, this is for the Board of Reviews. They will be looking at tax issues according to property taxes, and that board makes those decisions independent and does not come back to council. So there is a lot of weight but behind that, and we know that you'll do a good job. Because they're going to be holding meetings relatively, I think it's this week, there's going to be a meeting. We will be swearing you in if passed by the entire council this evening. If you'd like to stay around, you're welcome to do that, or you can come in on Tuesday morning and go to the clerk's office and be sworn in. Having said that, are there any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we move on to the presentation on the 2015 International Property Maintenance Code. We are going to be setting the public hearing on this this evening, and so it was important that we go over this, especially for new council members, and as a reminder to other council members that have been serving for a while. And Scott, what I'd like you to do is take us through just a baseline first on the International Property Maintenance Code, and then how you go about making determinations of what is going to be changed that meet our policies and criteria with that.
Thank you, ma'am. What we're looking at is the International Property Maintenance Code. We started with the 2009 back in November of 2011. What we were looking for was, in the past, we had pretty much put together our own housing code, and we were looking for a set type of standards that we could use that fell in line more with the state building codes and that type of thing. So we adopted the IPMC. In the process of doing that, whereas all of the references in the IPMC that go to international codes, we've changed that so it reflects back to the state codes, which makes us consistent because we do work a lot with the building department. Approximately 45% of their permitting they get through our department, because otherwise, through our housing inspections, which currently there's over 29,000 rental units in the city, the building department wouldn't be able to get into those properties or even know about some of this stuff if we weren't doing it in conjunction with our housing code. There's as far as the 2009 to the 2015, the significant changes to that in section 102.3, they added some additional references that go to the existing building code, which is the code that the building department uses for properties that are currently built and people want to make changes to them, the energy code, the fire code, and the residential code as they apply to the state of Michigan. One of the other things that they do is they've expanded now our reference that we, instead of in the 2009 where we only had to contact the owner, it now allows us to use the authorized agent or other persons having charge or control of the property for permissions to be able to enter or to get some other work done. The infestation definition now includes premises, which if you remember last year, we had that big issue up on the north end where they had a big infestation of fleas so bad they couldn't even deliver mail to the property. So this will now give us a little bit more to work with the premises and not just the inside of the property. And the most significant changes of this were the expansion of the fire protection systems as it applies to multi-tenant buildings. It now includes the inspection of the fire department connection and the signage that's required for that, clarification and exceptions for smoke detector requirements for existing buildings, such as when an alarm system has been installed as a substitute for those smoke alarms. It also talks about installation near cooking appliances and bathrooms, clarification for interconnecting alarms and power sources and smoke detectors. One of the changes that we did make to the code that we requested from council at Public Safety was that they do away with the section dealing with occupancy in the 2015 IPMC. As I'm sure you're aware, occupancy in the city of Lansing is regulated through the zoning code, so that would have caused a conflict.
And would you talk to a little bit about grass and weeds, the vehicles, some of those things as well?
Yes, ma'am. We carried forward all of the requirements that we had under the 2009 as it applies to premise. It still deals, we still do the vehicles under the Michigan codified law through the permission of the chief of police. So all of those provisions will still stand. The grass will still be there at 8 inches, trash and that type of things. Everything that we had included in our changes for 2009, we requested they be carried over.
And I know one of the questions that we get, because it does, in this particular book, it does talk about disabled vehicles, but because of court rulings and that we are under the motor vehicle portion of the law, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I believe it's MCL 125.
All right, so if you're using this as a guideline and your constituents are going online and looking this up, they have to remember that there is a difference with that. So that's part of the difference that we have with those. Are there questions for Scott on this? No questions? Yes, Councilmember Dunbar.
There's just a typo on page 7. Code compliance officer, any duly authorized representative of the code office. That's the only thing I could find.
Code office?
Yeah. It's on line 15, page 7.
Line 15. Um, Yes.
Well, it talks about it under right of entry, and it says the code official, it talks about the code official. The code official is authorized, the code official. So I'm still not seeing, but it is consistent through here that they refer to a code official. So I'm assuming that that's the nexus between here and here. I don't have a definition.
I don't either. And on page 3, line 15, it says compliance officers are hereby designated as authorized city officials. But,
Authorized city officials are terms in our ordinance code as a person that can actually write a ticket.
If you
Okay.
look in, council members, if you look in chapter 2, under section 201, that lists the general definitions.
Oh, there they are, yep,
You see that?
yep.
in the
starting-
big one.
That's in the big one, Kathy.
in this one.
Yep.
Yes. These two are
Okay.
mirrored, or these two are, you have to use together.
Okay. All right.
Yes, Mr. Sanford.
Yes, ma'am. Section 103.1, general, under Department of Property and Maintenance Inspection, that's been changed to the Code Enforcement Department. And it states that the Department of Property Maintenance or Code Enforcement is hereby created and the executive official, in other words, the manager is the code official. And then
There it is.
the designees are all of my code officers, but they work under the authority of the code official.
Okay. Other questions? Did you have your hand up, Councilmember Jackson? Okay. No other questions? Now, we'll be setting the public hearing on this evening during the council meeting, and that will be for February 25th. And as you're taking this out to your constituents again, remember there are two sections to this, and it's when you look it up in our under our codes, if you were going online, you will not see the International Premise Code. You will only see our building portion of it, and you'd have to look in the other section for the International Premise Code. Okay? Anything else, Mr. Sanford?
No, ma'am. Thank you very much, though, for hearing us tonight.
All right, thank you. I didn't realize we would be done so early, so I think that gets us through our agenda and the things that we needed
Haven't done public comment.
for this evening.
We can do public comment?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam President. Scott, how many available spots are there for premise inspectors right now? Are there two, or do you have any, like one, like almost getting ready to get hired?
Thank you.
Right now, we have 4 premise inspectors. We have 1 working out of class. We're currently filling a vacant code officer position. And we have premise inspector Odom is working out of class as a code officer until that position's filled. If Officer Odom gets the code officer position, then we'll have 1 vacant premise inspector position we'll be filling. We recently hired Tom Berry as a new premise inspector. He just came on about 2 weeks ago.
Now, do I have one in the second ward designated in the second ward yet? Because I know it wasn't the ultimate goal is to get 4 premise inspectors, 1 for each ward.
Yes, sir, and we've been trying to do that, but we had Mr. Vincent retire, then Mr. Cantrell retired. So what we've done at this point is divided the city in thirds, north and south. And once we get the full staff back online, we will have, we'll divide the city into quarters, and we'll have 1 in each quarter, 1 premise inspector.
So could you tell me who my third code premise inspector would be?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right.
Councilmember Hussein.
Can I just request, because things are so turbulent that, and I don't know if it's a quarterly basis or if you can send something over to city council where we see, because I know the city, in terms of code and premise, it's broken up into sectors and divisions. And is there any way we can get that like on a quarterly basis, just so we're in the know of who is actually servicing, I should say, certain areas at any particular time?
Yes, sir. Just last week, we updated the city website.
Okay.
I know you're in flux with this, with new hires and that, but if you could, and I appreciate that the website's been updated, but as those changes are made, if you could send us that information that way, it helps us as we're out there in the public.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we are adjourned.